Some people shout when they get mad. Others repress their anger for years and go quietly insane. It all really depends on what works best for you as an individual. China, for instance, has invented its own unique method of releasing tension. Whenever it's feeling frustrated with the world, or something doesn't go its way, it threatens Taiwan with military force. Yesterday, in response to the G7's moderate expression of support for Taiwan, it broke its own record for incursions into Taiwan's airspace. Here's what you need to know. 28 Chinese military aircraft entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, on Tuesday, according to Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, a record since Taiwan began publicly noting Chinese incursions, according to Taiwan Central News Agency. 3 groups of aircraft flew all the way to the southeastern side of Taiwan, a maneuver Newsweek suggests could be rehearsing cutting off Taiwan from U.S. support in the event of an invasion. In total, these groups included 1 Y-8 anti-submarine plane, 4 H-6 twin-engine jet bombers, 4 J-16 twinjet, multirole fighters, and 1 Y-8 electronic warfare aircraft. 3 additional groups of aircraft flew in the airspace between Taiwan and the Taiwan-controlled Dongsha Islands. In total, these included 2 KJ-500 airborne early warning and control planes, 10 additional J-16 twinjet, multirole fighters, and 6 J-11 twinjet multirole fighters. In recent weeks, Chinese pressure on Taiwan has slackened off after air incursions peaked in mid-April, according to Twitter updates by Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense. The previous record for incursions was set in mid-April, with 25 aircraft flying into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone. Tuesday's escalation could be seen as a response to a G7 communique made last week. It emphasized the importance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and encouraged the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues. Former Taiwan Defense Minister Andrew Yang supported this view, telling Taiwan Central News Agency the incursions could be seen as demonstrations of China's ability to carry out joint maneuvers, while also signaling to the international community that it will not retreat over sovereignty issues. Internally, one senior analyst at the government-funded Taiwanese Institute for National Defense and Security Research added that the PLA's maneuvers could be an attempt to appease militarily inclined groups and nationalists in China. So where does China go from here? Well, Beijing maintains that Taiwan is its territory and there are increasing reasons to think it would use military force to gain control of it. An article in Foreign Affairs magazine cites conversations with various academics in claiming that Chinese President Xi Jinping wants the acquisition of Taiwan to be part of his legacy. The same article cites a Global Times survey of Chinese people which says that 70% strongly support using force to unify Taiwan with China, and 37% think it would be best if the war occurred in between 3 and 5 years from now. So is an invasion imminent? Of course, no one knows for sure, but at the very least, according to Foreign Affairs magazine, calls for armed unification are building within China's ruling party. A lot may depend on exactly how firm China believes the U.S.'s commitment to Taiwan is, and China's precise tactics will be all important. Newsweek reports that China is increasing its pressure on Taiwan and the Biden administration with an aggressive new tactic. Taiwan's military showed that on March 29th, 10 Chinese warplanes invaded Taiwanese airspace to the island's south and west, while Japan reports that another 2 Chinese planes cut through its southern airspace to skirt Taiwan's eastern airspace. A Taiwanese official said that the move was designed to practice cutting Taiwan off from Japanese and American intervention if China carries through on its threats to invade Taiwan. This latest incursion saw 4 Chinese J-16 fighters and 4 J-10 fighters entering Taiwan's air defense zone in the southeast, together with a KJ-500 control plane. A Y-8 anti-submarine plane was also tracked flying all the way from the southeast to the southwest of the zone. Japan also tracked 2 Chinese Y-9 planes, one of which turned to fly along the eastern border of Taiwan's air defense zone. 15 Chinese military aircraft entered the southwest portion of Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone on Wednesday, April 7th, according to Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, marking the 5th consecutive day in which such incursions have taken place, while a Chinese carrier flanked Taiwan to the east. The aircraft involved were listed as 8 J-10 and 4 J-16 fighter jets, 2 KJ-500 airborne early warning and control planes, and 1 Y-8 anti-submarine plane. While the fighters and the KJ-500s only flew to the southwest of the island, according to Taiwan's central news agency, the Y-8 flew farther into Taiwan's southeast air defense identification zone. Taiwan's Air Force responded to the maneuver by scrambling warplanes of its own and warning off the Chinese aircraft, as well as issuing radio warnings and mobilizing air defense systems. At the same time, however, China also encroached on Taiwanese territory in the opposite direction. As reported by Reuters, the Chinese aircraft carrier Liaoning and its escort ships were sailing north of Taiwan through the Miyako Strait, a stretch of ocean that sits between Taiwan and the Japanese island of Okinawa. In response to this maneuver, the U.S. sailed the guided missile destroyer USS John S. McCain through the Taiwan Strait between China and Taiwan. Elsewhere, in what CNN described as a part of its routine operations, the U.S. Navy sent the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier and its escort ships through the South China Sea on Sunday. China has once again made incursions into Taiwanese airspace, continuing its surge of military activity around Taiwan. Here is what you need to know. More Chinese military aircraft entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, on Monday than in any previous day this year. According to Taiwan's Central News Agency, reporting figures from Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, a total of 25 Chinese planes flew into Taiwan's ADIZ. The incursions involved 5 flight paths. 4 J-10 lightweight multirole fighters and 8 J-16 twinjet multirole strike fighters flew on the same path. 6 additional J-16s flew on a separate path. 4 H-6K twin-engine jet bombers flew on a separate path. And finally, 2 Y-8 anti-submarine planes and 1 KJ-500 airborne early warning and control plane flew on their own separate paths. These incursions beat this year's previous high of 20 Chinese planes entering Taiwan's ADIZ on a single day, set on March 26th. According to the CNA, those entries came in response to the U.S. and Taiwan signing an accord outlining cooperation between U.S. and Taiwanese Coast Guards. Responding to the situation in an interview with NBC's Meet the Press, Yahoo reports that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned against any further military intensification in the area, saying what we've seen and what is of real concern to us is increasingly aggressive actions by the government in Beijing directed at Taiwan, raising tensions in the Straits. He added that the U.S. has a long-standing commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to ensure that the island has the ability to defend itself. On March 22nd, the United States, alongside the UK, the EU, and Canada, announced sanctions on Chinese officials they say are involved in the mass internment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the sanctions were in response to genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang. Those words came just days after an independent report by the New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy declared that every act prohibited in Article 2 of the United Nations Genocide Convention had been breached in Xinjiang. The convention defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, and forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. The report details allegations that, as well as mass deaths, Uyghur Muslims have been subjected to systematic torture and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, including rape, sexual abuse, and public humiliation, both inside and outside a network of detention camps across Xinjiang. The U.S.'s sanctions target Wang Junzheng, Secretary of the Party Committee of the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, and Chen Mingguo, Director of the Xinjiang Public Security Bureau. Under the Global Magnitsky Act, assets they have in the U.S. are frozen and Americans cannot do business with them. EU and British sanctions targeted 2 further officials, Zhu Hailun, the former secretary of the Political Affairs Committee of Xinjiang, and Wang Mingshan, a secretary to the Xinjiang Autonomous Region Political Committee. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken emphasized that these sanctions demonstrate our ongoing commitment to working multilaterally to advance respect for human rights. China has already retaliated with sanctions of its own on UK and EU officials. According to the BBC, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi added that powerful countries should not wantonly meddle in others' internal affairs according to their own standards, or use the banner of democracy and human rights to build their power. Either way, with international pressure growing on China, it has become increasingly isolated over this issue.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.